Right, yeah.
Because being antiviral, fungal, and bacterial, you could do that once a year, or twice a year, after the holidays when we've,
Yeah.
all eaten things that we shouldn't eat.
Right, yeah.
Anything to cleanse the body out, even just drinking a lot of green drinks.
Yeah.
I'm not big on doing heavy cleanses because I think they can sometimes do more harm than good. I think everything should be slow. Even when you're sick and let's say you decide you're only using homeopathy or you're only using vitamins and herb supplements, you should still never run and buy like 6 different things, all these things that are known to help, because it all goes through the liver. Just because it's a supplement or just because it's natural, it's still gonna go through our liver. So our body needs everything to be done as if we're an infant. When the babies are little, we give them, peas for 4 days in a row or whatever. I don't know how they do it now, but that's what they did 30, 40 years ago. Now they probably just give it to them first right off. Everything's changed. But, it's a slow process, so you want to start out, it's 2 reasons. One, you could be wasting your money by just throwing all this in your system all at once, and it's an overload. You want to be careful. You want to say, okay, I'm going to start out with vitamin C. That's pretty simple and basic. And vitamin C is water soluble, so you can't take too much. You could take 60,000 units a day. It's not going to hurt you. You might be wasting it, and you might have a little upset stomach by taking too much of it, but it isn't going to harm you. Whereas if you took vitamin A, or you took a fat-soluble vitamin that stores in your system, you could become toxic from taking too much. It's like when a child gets a multivitamin bottle and they take too much. It's because they've got too much iron, they've got too much of fat-soluble vitamins in their system, and it becomes toxic.
That actually happened to me once, what you were talking about, when I didn't go to a chiropractor, but I had a facial massage, and I got a really bad sinus infection right in
And
here.
a migraine.
That was the first sinus infection I ever had in my life,
Oh, God.
and it was horrible.
You had a migraine too.
Well, that went along with it, but
Yeah.
it was, the bad headaches after a massage. But yeah, it was, I knew it was from that because it was right in my face.
The massage therapist always tells you start drinking water. So
Yeah.
Right, just flush it out. So, do you have examples, you briefly mentioned one, but of homeopathic treatments that have worked for you personally, or people that you have known, some things like if it's just colds or arthritis, or things that you have been able to cure, just as examples? Yeah?
I take the one with the O for when I had the flu,
Yeah,
and it worked.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, do you remember when you were young, you took the Rux Tox when you
For
blew up
hives.
the balloon with hives?
I took that for hives, yeah.
She was fitted for a mouth guard, and we didn't realize that she was allergic to the plastic.
Oh.
And by the time we got home
It was bad.
she was a mess. She had hives everywhere.
Oh, man.
And the Rux Tox was the best one that we used for it.
Yeah, that's the only thing I remember taking.
Yeah, well, we had 2, but we settled on that one because it did work the best. And as soon as she had them for like a week, but as soon as they'd start to come back on, she took the homeopathic remedy, they were gone. So those 2 things. And definitely, I've used the arnica quite a few times with different things. I am more ingrained in the herbal part and the supplements.
All right.
Like the biquinol that I mentioned that I take for heart, that's a really good circulatory herb. It works great for the heart, but there's a couple different types. It's actually CoQ10, which you're probably more familiar with. But CoQ10 is either ubiquinol or ubiquinine. The ubiquinol is more expensive, but it's easier to accept in the system. Ubiquinine is a form of CoQ10, but the body has to process it, so it goes in steps. So if you want one that's immediate, you would want to take the ubiquinol. And it needs an oil as a carrier, so that's a little bit different too. You'll see some CoQ10 that's in a powder form, and that's going to be ubiquinine instead of ubiquinol. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions about anything, whether it's supplements or you go ahead?
Yeah. Do you think, how does these treatments, whether it be herbal or homeopathic, how can they or do they already coexist with traditional medicine?
You mean, can they work together?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. like people who have cancer
Mhm.
could use the ashwagandha, which is, stabilizes and balances, it takes the stress out, and it's really good for people who are going through chemo. Astragalus works really well for people to build up their immune system. There's, like, if they have, their iron is usually really low, and there's a company called Flora that has Flora Vital, and it's a liquid form of iron, and that has worked really well with cancer patients who can't take other forms of iron because it's like figs and cherries, and it's all a whole food. It's a strong one. It tastes very earthy, but it works really good, and you have to refrigerate it after opening it. You can only buy it in either a 7-day supply or a 14-day supply. It's a company from Germany. And that you cannot buy at Wegmans, but you can buy that at Feel Right in most health food stores, or you could get it online. I guess you could get pretty much anything online now.
Yeah, right, yeah. One of the handouts everyone should have gotten is a homeopathic first aid kit, kind of like quick go-tos. But outside of just maybe even homeopathy, but what are some quick fixes, some things that we should have in our home cabinets? Things that you recommend we just have?
The fungus fighter for sure, for
Yeah.
one, because if you cut yourself, you can just put a little bit on and.
Now, this might be a stupid question. Can you take it as just?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you can
that's-
also put it onto.
It's basically meant to take internally because it has alcohol in it. So,
Okay.
I'm putting a little alcohol on my system, but
So it's topical and ingesting.
they don't really advertise it topical. I mean, all of these are in a big set for internal use, but also you could use it for, if you had like an infection around your toe, it could be used for athlete's foot, it could be used for anything that's fungal, bacterial, or viral.
Yeah, I remember that being like the go-to in our house. If
Really?
we were,
Yeah.
if we thought we were getting sick with a cold, we took
Yes.
that. If we cut ourselves, we put that instead of like hydrogen peroxide, we'd
Right,
pour that on.
right.
Oh, yeah, I never put anything but this. The kids would come in, put their cut or whatever over the sink, and they got the fungus fighter on.
Another one, the cayenne. I don't know if
I
you
love cayenne,
if you
yeah.
still recommend that, but
I do.
she would give it to us for canker sores,
Mm.
which burns, but it heals them really quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah, it does kill it, like, immediately, because what happens is it sears it shut.
It's really hard to get through, but if you
Is
can.
that good for topical?
I have actually used this myself in a powder form. I have a scar right here on my finger where I was by myself before you were born, and I stuck my hand foolishly in a glass, washing the glass, and
Yep.
cut it real bad. And I was thinking, okay, what am I gonna do? And I remembered that I had powdered cayenne, so I put it in the spot, and it hurt really bad, but it stopped bleeding. So it was no more gushing blood. And the same thing, like she said, that if they had a canker sore or anything. And I had a woman one time come to me that she had a really bad ulceration on her tongue. And she said she had tried everything and she was just miserable. She couldn't eat or anything. And I said, I know this is gonna sound crazy and you're probably not gonna wanna do this, but if you put the liquid cayenne on your tongue, it will sear it shut.
But that one, I do suggest, like how you. I think you gave it to us on a Q-tip or
Yes.
something.
Oh, yes.
Because one time I used it like I squirted the whole,
Yeah.
and then it gets all around your mouth and it just.
It makes it feel numb.
So-
Makes your throat feel numb.
Yeah,
I
so you
forgot
need
that
it on
happened
like a
to you.
Q-tip.
Very good point.
Mhm.
And cayenne's an anti-inflammatory too, right?
Yeah, this is considered a hot herb, so it revs up the system too. So like, I would never depend on just this, but if there was someone having an asthma attack or a heart attack in the house, and you stick this under their tongue, it's going to, give a rush of, it's going to give a rush of blood to the heart. It's going to shock the body into working itself again, and then call 911.
Right.
Or call 911 and then get this.
In gardening, some of the Jerry Baker's technique, he will put like the oils, but he also uses cayenne.
Mhm. Well, cayenne is an accelerator,
Yeah,
right? So it's, cayenne and ginger can both be used that way. They are revers in the system, so, they can disrupt the negative in the system and cause it to work. Yeah.
Oh, I think you should mention the peppermint spirits for if anybody knows any breastfeeding moms,
Oh,
because
yes.
it's super helpful.
I'm-
I just want to
I'm
like
so
tell
glad you're
everyone
here
in the
tonight
world.
Because there's so much that I
Yeah.
forget. I go home sometimes and think, oh, I should tell them this, I should tell them that. Peppermint Spirits saved her,
Well, and
and
Silas.
her infant. He was extremely colicky.
Mm.
And when I was out,
Super
well,
bad.
actually, there's two things. One, going back to this fungus fighter that I love so much, and the peppermint spirits. So when I was out with, his name is Herbal Ed. He's been around forever. He's kind of a hippie that developed this company. But he told me that if a mom had a breast infection, that you could treat the mom with this and then swab the inside of the baby's mouth so they don't pass it back and forth. So this fungus fighter literally can be used for pretty much everything. And the peppermint spirits also, so you put a little bit in the water and I would give it to her, or she would take it on her own
Before eating.
before eating, so that way it took away the gas that was in your system, and that way you don't pass it on to the baby. So he never had colic. I mean, he did for a
He
couple
did really
days.
bad, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I started using peppermint spirits. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
He was fine.
Wow.
I just had to remember I took it with me everywhere, and right before I ate, I took the
Mhm.
water with the
Like a
peppermint,
shot of peppermint
and he was
water.
fine. But I have told so many people because it was just amazing that he never had to cry anymore, and he would, he had his legs curled up. It was bad, and then it just went away.
Yeah.
It's such an easy fix, just a tiny little.
Doesn't even
That is
taste bad.
crazy.
No, a few drops of peppermint, and is all it is.
I think I didn't take a whole dropperful.
No.
Okay,
No,
maybe
I don't think so.
I
You
might have taken that
some.
on my own, but when it was for him,
Right.
it was less.
But before the meal, you took a few drops. I've told that to, I used to do lactation consulting years ago, and that was one of the biggest tips I would tell moms, because everyone goes through having the baby being colicky in that adjustment phase, and it's amazing to just take it away
Mm.
completely over something so simple as just, ingesting a little bit of peppermint with your water before the meal, so that way you've set the tone in your digestive tract to take away that gas and disruption.
I gave lemon balm to my cat because you told me about the calming.
Oh, right.
Because I had a cat who pulled her fur out really bad. She was really anxious all the time, and then I would put some lemon balm in her water. And what were the other two? Catnip. Even though I don't really understand that, because when they have it dry, it makes them all
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different when
But-
it's mixed with other things, but
Interesting.
Yeah, and it was calming.
Hmm.
Yeah.
She chilled out.
Not dry though. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So I'm getting back into sticking to a diet that it reduces inflammation, anti-inflammation. What are some things 101 go-tos for that sort of thing?
well, turmeric would be an awesome thing.
Yeah.
Everyone would benefit from taking turmeric.
Okay.
It has so many different properties. It's kind of right now one of those cure-all things where it's good for
I
this,
hear
it's good for
turmeric a
that.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
How do we take it?
you can take it in a powdered form,
Yeah.
where you could just put it in your smoothie. Same thing with this. This is
Uh-huh.
fermented, so
I've heard
it's.
people put it in their coffee, but you mentioned that it.
Well, that one wouldn't hurt because it's not a mineral.
Okay.
It's a spice /
Yeah.
herb, so that would, some things you could do with coffee, it's just that mixing anything with caffeine isn't really a great suggestion.
Yeah. Mhm.
And there's a really good thing for inflammation is something called boswellia.
Okay.
That's an Ayurvedic herb, and it's also